Well, good evening, everyone. It is your pal, the Whiskey Coach, back at it this evening with another bourbon. Man, it feels like we're running heavy on bourbons. I guess it's the biggest category of my collection, so to speak, so I have a ton of making up to do. So we're hitting it heavy. So it'll be that way for a little while, I guess, unless something completely just inspires me to go off the bourbon trail, so to speak, for the time being. We're gonna stick to bourbon, and it's unbelievable. I went back and started looking at some old reviews, and I can't believe the stuff that I haven't reviewed. So I figured I'd have to start with some of the basics, the blocking and tackling, the foundational bourbons of the world, if you will. Thus, today's review: Eagle Rare 10-year-old. Almost every bourbon or even semi-bourbon fan out there is probably familiar with Eagle Rare. Eagle Rare is a Buffalo Trace product. It is of that famous Mash Bill 1 Buffalo Trace. Buffalo Trace is a little bit secretive about their mash bills. They don't fully disclose, like some of the other distillers, what exactly that mash bill is, but it is a low rye, high corn mash bill. And I'm going to use a little cheater today. I'm going to use my phone and just kind of run through some of the other bourbons that fall under that Mash Bill 1. Buffalo Trace, which I'll get to here momentarily. Old Charter, both Old Charters. Almost the entire E.H. Taylor line. Single barrel, barrel proof, small batch, everything. George T. Stagg, Stagg Jr., Eagle Rare, the big Buffalo Trace Antique Collection. Benchmark, White Dog. I mean, tons of stuff that they're doing is of this Mash Bill 1, which is interesting. I mean, you guys, if you think about it, the differences between, number one, price tag and flavor profile and allocation standpoints, and when oftentimes we're talking about the same bourbon, or in essence the same bourbon, just a change in age, proof, where the juice was matured, little teeny variables, maybe a char level here and there, and you go from a Pappy Van Winkle, which is a weeded, which is their other mash bill, to a Benchmark. It's crazy. Speaking of allocation, again, to give you some sort of time frame of where we're at when you're watching it. While I'm filming this review, it is October 1, 2018 now. And we're at the point, sadly, where bottles like this are now becoming allocated across the country. It's a $30 bottle, give or take, when you'll find it on the shelf. Maybe 40, as high as 40, but 10-year age-dated Buffalo Trace bourbon. I mean, that's a hell of a deal. The reason it's allocated is because people are snatching it up so quick. There's been rumors for years that as you saw with some Heaven Hill products, that they would drop this age statement. That remains to be seen. It used to be on the older bottlings that right around the neck there would show a 10-year age, 10 years. They then moved that to the back, if you can see there on the bottom. Kind of like Elijah Craig did, which people started to worry about. But that's been years now with Eagle Rare, and to this point, the age statement is still there. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, an amazing value bourbon. This will be the first time I am pouring this specific bottle, but I have tried Eagle Rare before. One thing I want to talk about Eagle Rare in terms of its presentation, it kind of jumps out at you on the shelf. It's a very unique bottling. And if you can see, you see the top where it's more of an amber light color, and you'll see that line about right here. They do a really cool job, unintentionally or intentionally, I don't know. But the back label here is black. So it gives this bottle a much darker, more aged look even than the whiskey is. And I always thought that was brilliant. It always looks delicious. When I see it on a shelf, it looks extremely appetizing and matured even more than it is because of that, in part at least. But I mentioned Buffalo Trace, and I wanted to get back to that. So Buffalo Trace, the actual Buffalo Trace label, not just the distillery, it's exactly the same as Eagle Rare. I've heard 6 to 8 years on age. It's an NAS. It's a non-age stated bourbon. Up to 7 to 9 years. But it's 90 proof. Same mash bill. Same distiller. The difference is a few years in age. My wife and I, like I mentioned, one of the last reviews I did, had recently gone up to Buffalo Trace, and we did a tasting at the end. They, by the way, offer complimentary, which is super cool. And the tour guide that we spoke with, I guess that gave us our tour, was one of the hard hat tours, was very almost dismissive about Buffalo Trace, which I thought was a little curious. And he really kind of highlighted Eagle Rare. But to his credit, man, when you taste the two side by side, I gotta admit, it's a pretty big, stark contrast in terms of flavor profile. So I guess he was on to something. And I knew that, but it's kind of interesting to hear it every now and then. This is a 2018 bottling, by the way. I have a bottle that's been sitting up here for a million years that I was going to crack into. Not a million years, 4 years, I guess. That I was going to crack into, and I thought to myself, you know what? Let me check the year on this, because this may be one I want to keep and hold on to and try later. And sure enough, it's 2014, so I said, you know what? Let me just go to the bunker and grab a more recent vintage for a couple reasons, but more so than anything, so you guys could go off to the store and actually buy exactly what it is I'm drinking here tonight. This used to be a single barrel product. It is now not. It is now just an age-stated product, which is of minor significance, but something I thought I'd mention for what it's worth. On the nose, this is going to sound terrible. I don't know why this just hit me. A little bit of nail polish, a little bit of acetone initially. Almost like raisins. Some marshmallow, allspice, caramel, and as you can see in the glass, certainly doesn't kind of match up to that black background on the bottle, but a very nice, mature looking bourbon. Shall we? I should mention, probably not the best thing to do before scoring and tasting spirits, but I did treat myself to a bag of Skittles before this review, so I may or may not have skewed my palate a little bit, one way or the other. So take that for what it's worth. I did have some flavor of the rainbow, so to speak. So yeah, guys, I didn't even talk about proof, I don't think. 90 proof is Eagle Rare. So it's a nice kind of standard bourbon pour. Warmth, balanced, those things kind of jump out at me. Mellow as you'd want or expect from a 90 proof high corn bourbon mash bill. Second sip's really nice. It's just very well-rounded. It's kind of like a working man's bourbon in terms of not one thing jumps out at you, but damn, it's solid, and it certainly does the job. A little bit of like oatmeal cookie almost towards the back end. Just a really, really, really rock solid bourbon. I'm not going to go on and on about this. Most of you, frankly, have had it, but I felt like I needed to review this since I haven't done it as of yet. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. In terms of a score, I will give Eagle Rare 10-year-old 2018 7.0. Seems like a fair score. Thanks, guys, as always, for joining me this evening. Stay tuned for more very, very shortly. And as always, and until next time, glasses up.